God of War launched on the 22nd of March in the year 2005. That means that this awesome franchise is 10 years old today. We asked Tara, Tamtu, Robert, and Raychul Moore about their experiences with the game. And we have none other than David Jaffe, the creator of the first two games, as a guest star on this episode. This is Best Memories, God of War.
I cannot believe that the original God of War was released 10 years ago. That's crazy.
It was a very passionate team. I mean, it wasn't dysfunctional in the sense that people didn't know what they were doing and it was a mess. It was just you had a lot of passionate people who believed in the game and their views of the game. And the great news is, you know, when that can be harnessed, which I think it was very much in God of War, you end up with a product that we're all really proud of and people seem to like. But it was a lot of fighting and yelling and arguing and stress, and it was an extremely hard game to make.
I have faithfully served the gods for 10 years.
Kratos is in my at least top 5 sexiest men in gaming. I mean, he's huge, he's buff, his loincloth is really long, so you're thinking there's gotta be something going on under there.
Kratos is one angry motherfucker. That's it.
He's not the brightest, I guess. I mean, every time he gets tricked by the gods, and he ends up going on a rampage.
The absolute pure passion and the pure just adrenaline that Kratos has throughout the whole game and the whole series really kind of bleeds into you as the gamer.
I'm never going to be 6'5" and full of muscles and badass and stuff in my real life. And the idea of creating a character and then playing a character that let me kind of have that fantasy of being that kind of a guy, I think that's I wouldn't say it's universal, but I know a lot of guys who connect with that. But I think the aspects of me that are in Kratos are definitely that ambition and that drive.
Anger management. This game is pure anger management. I channeled so much anger through Kratos, running around with his blades and just killing things.
You know, it's kind of like a dance. He's swinging the blades around and they're wrapping around his head with chains, and it's just such a fluid movement. Kratos and his blades are not weapons to him. They are like an extension of himself.
God of War has this QuickTime event built in. And it's actually one of the only games where I enjoy QuickTime events, because with each button press, something freaking awesome happens.
Bashing their heads in until it's just like a bowl of brain matter can be seen as excessive, but it's not, because it's Kratos.
There's a sequence in the first God of War where you're sacrificing this other human by sort of pushing he's trapped in this cage, and you have to push this cage into this incinerator in order to get the trap the booby trap to get set off so you can have access to deeper parts of the temple. And when we released in Europe, we had to replace that character with a monster and things like that, because they just wouldn't let you have that sort of sadistic, mentality in the game that they put out over there. But overall, it was, from the very beginning, it was meant to have that tone and that sense of aggression and violence, and really taking great joy in that just unbridled animalistic nature of Kratos that you got to control.
My fondest memory from the first God of War is, discovering the bitches. When Kratos can go back there, do a QuickTime event, and, get some poontang. It
really was, in God of War 1, built around his character. If you actually read the journal next to his bedside, which is where he has sex with these two women, he has picked women up in the world that remind him. They look very much like his dead wife. And he is sort of numbing the pain of what he did to his family with alcohol. All the bottles are all over his cabin and his boat, with sort of meaningless sex, to really just sort of lose himself in, these more base activities. So he really doesn't have to drill down and deal with the pain that he's in and the nightmare that he's sort of nursing. And so it was built to be story and character relevant, even though we knew that 95% of the players would just go, oh look, they're having sex, I get to play with the sex button.
Press some buttons to help Kratos do his thing,
A little tension release. in the way of a sex scene. And it did get you extra XP and health, and that's always a bonus.
The other God of War games that have had the sex scenes, and they've almost felt like obligations at this point, I don't feel they necessarily come from the same sort of character revelatory aspect that the first God of War game did. But you know, I'm clearly have a bias towards the one I was the lead writer on and director. So maybe fans don't feel that way. Maybe they would be very upset maybe at this point if they got a new God of War and there wasn't some crazy sex scene in it. So I don't know that, but I know in God of War 1 it was absolutely meant to be part of the story and the character. And cheesy as it may come across to some, I'm glad it's in there.
If someone were to ask me if God of War was one of the best action and adventure franchises ever, I would say yes it is. It's also one of my favorite franchises ever, period.
I have not had this much fun with Greek mythology since Xena the Warrior Princess. And also, it was a great platforming game with action elements and just killing stuff over and over. It was so wonderful.
God of War as a franchise is a blueprint for action games. I mean, it has brutal action, it has some small puzzles, it has a cool setting, an awesome story, sort of.
Blood, violence, a gorgeous, gorgeous scenery and environment artwork, great controls, badass protagonists I can totally get behind, and of course, it's got the lovely, sexy ladies.
Wow, if I could make Kratos fight any game character, I mean, I think there's the obvious joy in just seeing him tear the crap out of Mario, you know, and I love Mario, but I just think it would be such a fun little contrast to see him going into, you know, the Mushroom Kingdom and just, you know, just tearing the crap out of the place. I think that would be fun. And I think a sex scene with him and Princess Peach would be, and you see little Mario at the window all sad, his little bloody lip quivering because he can, and Luigi finally is happy because fucking Mario now knows how it feels to be like shut out of the party. I think there would be some joy. For some reason I would take in that. But I think a good fight though, you know, they put Kratos in the Mortal Kombat universe in a previous Mortal Kombat game, and I thought he was very much at home there. When I heard they were doing that, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. So seeing him fighting Kano and Sub-Zero and Scorpion and you know, Jax and those guys, I think that's sort of like a vacation for him, is visiting the Mortal Kombat universe. So I think that's probably the most fitting place for him. But for me, the sadistic little kid in me would love to see him just tear up Mario. That would be a lot of fun.